On February 2nd, 1959, 9 experienced hikers died under circumstances so bizarre that investigators couldn't explain what happened. Their tent was slashed open from the inside. They fled into the freezing Siberian wilderness, wearing almost nothing. Some had fatal injuries that seemed impossible without external trauma. And when searchers finally found them, the scene was so disturbing that it spawned decades of theories, from secret military tests to attacks by unknown creatures. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident, one of history's most chilling, unsolved mysteries. In late January 1959, a group of 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a skiing expedition to reach Ural Mountain in the northern Urals. This wasn't a casual hiking trip. These were experienced outdoors people, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, who had extensive experience in difficult expeditions. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all in their early 20s except for one member, 37-year-old Alexander Zolotaryov. They were fit, prepared, and capable. This should have been challenging, but routine. The planned route was classified as Category 3, the most difficult designation. But for this group, it was achievable. They carried proper equipment, food supplies, and cameras to document their journey. On January 27th, the group reached the last inhabited settlement, a village called Vizhai. The next day, they began their trek into the wilderness. One member, Yuri Yudin, fell ill and turned back. This decision would save his life. He would be the only survivor, not because he escaped what happened, but because he was never there. The remaining 9 continued toward their destination. From the diaries and cameras recovered later, we know what happened in those final days. On January 31st, the group began ascending toward the pass. Weather conditions were worsening, with heavy snowfall and strong winds. On February 1st, they made a decision that would later seem fateful. Instead of descending to a forested area to make camp as planned, they stopped on the slopes of Ural Mountain. The name translates to Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language. The reason for stopping there remains debated. Some believe they got disoriented in poor visibility. Others think they wanted to practice camping in difficult conditions. Igor Dyatlov wrote in his diary that they would lose a day if they descended, and they decided to camp on the slope instead. They pitched their tent and settled in for the night. Temperatures were around -25 to -30 degrees Celsius, with wind chill making it even colder. This would be their last known action. When the group failed to send a telegram upon their return as planned, concern grew. On February 20th, a search team was organized. On February 26th, they found the abandoned campsite. What they discovered made no sense. The tent was still standing, but had been cut open from the inside. Not untied or opened normally, slashed, as if the occupants were desperate to escape immediately. Equipment, food, and warm clothing were left behind. Footprints led away from the tent down the slope. Some were from bare feet. Others were from people wearing only socks or a single shoe. The tracks suggested the group had walked, not run, in an organized line toward the tree line about 1.5 kilometers away. At the forest edge, under a large cedar tree, searchers found the remains of a small fire and the frozen bodies of Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. Both were barefoot and dressed only in underwear. The branches of the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting someone had climbed it, perhaps trying to see something or signal for help. Between the cedar and the tent, search teams found 3 more bodies over the following days: Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. They were positioned as if they had been trying to return to the tent. Dyatlov was found with a flashlight that was still on. 4 members remained missing. It took 2 more months before the last 4 bodies were discovered on May 4th, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine about 75 meters from the cedar tree. This is where the mystery deepens even further. These 4, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolovatov, Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, and Alexander Zolotaryov, had severe internal injuries. Thibault-Brignol had major skull damage. Dubinina and Zolotaryov had fractured ribs. The medical examiner stated these injuries were caused by extreme force, comparable to a car crash. Yet their bodies showed no external wounds or soft tissue damage. How do you sustain massive internal trauma without any external injuries? Even stranger, Dubinina's tongue and eyes were missing, along with parts of her facial tissue. Zolotaryov was also missing his eyes. Some of the clothing found on these bodies showed elevated levels of radiation, though this detail would be disputed and reinterpreted for decades. The Ravine group had been better dressed than those found near the cedar, wearing clothes that appeared to have been taken from those who died first, a logical survival decision. But it raised the question, what could cause such injuries while leaving them time to redistribute clothing? The Soviet investigation concluded in May 1959 with a frustratingly vague explanation. The deaths were caused by a compelling natural force that the hikers could not overcome. The case was quickly closed, and the files were sent to a secret archive. The area was sealed off to expeditions for the next 3 years. Several details from the investigation fueled decades of speculation. One investigator noted that the tent's damage suggested the occupants were fleeing from something terrifying. But from what? There were no signs of other people, no avalanche debris, no animal tracks. Some rescuers and investigators reported seeing strange orange spheres or lights in the sky around the time of the incident and in the weeks following. These reports were documented but never officially explained. The elevated radiation on some clothing was noted, but not thoroughly investigated, partly because the detection equipment was not sophisticated. The trauma to the bodies was inconsistent with any known natural phenomenon. The medical examiner who performed the autopsies later stated in interviews that he had never seen such injuries from natural causes. In the 65 years since the incident, dozens of theories have emerged. The avalanche theory. The most popular rational explanation suggests a small avalanche or snowslide struck the tent, forcing the hikers to cut their way out. However, searchers found no evidence of avalanche debris, and experienced mountaineers have noted that the slope angle wasn't steep enough. Additionally, the tent was still standing, which is unlikely after an avalanche. A 2021 study using snow modeling suggested a small, delayed slab avalanche could have occurred, But critics argue this doesn't explain the severe internal injuries or why the group fled so far from the tent. Military testing. Some believe the group stumbled into a secret military test zone. Parachute mines, thermobaric weapons testing, or other experiments might explain the injuries and the lights in the sky. The radiation readings could support this, though they might also be from contamination in the clothing from other sources. The Soviet military did conduct tests in the general region, but there's no documentation of tests on that specific night. Infrasound. This scientific theory suggests that wind passing over the mountain created infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that can cause panic, dread, and irrational behavior in humans. Could this have caused the group to flee in terror from nothing? The theory is plausible but doesn't explain the physical injuries. Indigenous conflict. Some early speculations suggested conflict with the Mansi people, but this was quickly dismissed. The Mansi had good relations with hikers, and forensic evidence showed no signs of an attack by other people. More extreme theories. These range from Yeti attacks to UFOs to secret Soviet experiments with chemical weapons. While these capture imagination, they lack supporting evidence. In 2019, Russia reopened the investigation on the 60th anniversary of the incident. After reviewing evidence and consulting experts, they officially concluded it was an avalanche, despite the same problems with this theory that existed before. Yuri Yudin, the sole survivor who turned back before the tragedy, spent his life seeking answers. He died in 2013, never knowing what killed his friends. Documentary makers, scientists, and amateur investigators continue to visit the site. The pass was officially renamed Dyatlov Pass in honor of the group leader in 1959. Modern analysis of the photographs from the recovered cameras shows the group in good spirits, joking and smiling. The last photo on one camera shows them beginning to cut into the snow to set up the tent, taken in the late afternoon of February 1st. Whatever happened that night occurred after this photo. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of history's most compelling mysteries because it combines elements that shouldn't coexist. Experienced hikers making seemingly irrational decisions, fatal injuries with no clear cause, and a complete absence of any obvious threat. 9 people died on that mountain, and 65 years later, we still don't know why. What do you think happened? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more unsolved mysteries like this, subscribe and hit the notification bell.